Everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It is Tuesday. It's September 5th. It is 2023. We have 10 baseball games to talk about here on today's podcast. Joined today by my buddy Keith Eiser, Eys819. Keith, what's happening, my friend?
Not too much. We're just talking a little bit pre-show, and we've got opening week of football next time. Obviously, we've got this nice little 10-gamer here to break down, but then we've got football this week, which is always exciting. But good month of baseball left. We got some playoff races to pay attention to. Exciting time in sports for sure.
Yeah, fun times, man. Ready for football. Can't wait. Kind of exhausted, so that aspect of it. But you grind through that kind of stuff, right? You just grind through it. So pumped to have you back for football this week or this season. You and I will be doing the NFL Morning Grind on late Wednesday nights for live recording, typically 11-ish. And then it'll be out in podcast form on Thursday morning. It'll only be main slate like it has been the last few years. So we won't be covering any of the showdown stuff. But yeah, very pumped for football to be back. Derek in chat says I scored 149 and didn't cash. Yeah, the early slate, lot of scoring. Cole Reagans continues to just do his thing. We have highlighted in detail. His new pitch mix has been phenomenal and keeps getting these good matchups. And, we talked about him on the podcast yesterday as being like the best point per dollar pitcher on the slate. Well, everyone thought that because he was popular. But yeah, a lot of scoring on Monday. You know who didn't score on Monday? I didn't. I played terrible in disc golf. I'm sad. All right. Keith, we got 10 games. Let's jump in and have some fun. This one just seems so familiar and so fresh. We have Detroit at New York. Garrett Cole and Faedo facing off against each other. Any interest here in Alex Faedo?
Just this New York lineup is not all that imposing at this point. Just the thing is he going to have the leash? Like, he pitched out of the bullpen last time, or what happened in his last game here? 7,900 against the Yankees. Like, it's a tough price tag.
Yeah, they did say like he was gonna move to like a long relief type of role, and then because Joey Wentz, like I think like Wentz, he like pitched behind Wentz and like threw an inning, and Wentz came back, and like I don't know what the leash is. I just honestly like he's 7,900. He's against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium. Like I don't even feel like I have to sweat this today. Like he's the same price as Brady Singer against the White Sox. Like I would much rather attack that or Fayette against Colorado. Like we have pitchers in this range. I just overall don't see myself using Faedo today. Garrett Cole's 12K. Gets one of the worst offenses in baseball. Just faced this team. Only put up 24 fantasy points. I say only. Garrett Cole should put up more than 24 fantasy points against Detroit on a typical basis. Any interest here in Cole at 12K?
So I've been trying to save money as much as I can at pitcher here recently. You talked about Reagans. It just seems like that's been the proper build. Of course, we had the Braves in Coors, and then we had Toronto in Coors. So we've been prioritizing offenses, I feel like. Is there that elite offense that we need to prioritize on this slate? I'm not sure. Obviously, Garrett Cole is great. It's a great matchup. I'm not excited to pay $12K for really any pitcher not named Spencer Strider at this point. The strikeouts have been down for Cole compared to where he was when he was an elite guy. I think I'm going to try to avoid going up here as much as I can, but it's obviously a great spot.
It's a lot easier to fit him in because we do have some cheap pitchers today that make a lot of sense. But I will say, like, this seems like a really good spot today for Philadelphia, and they're kind of expensive. So I think that they're an offense we want to pay up for. I think with Waldichuk moving from Monday to Wednesday or Monday to Tuesday, we are going to want some Toronto bats. They're not necessarily that cheap. Kyle Freeland against Arizona. Miles Mikolas against the Braves. That's the one that jumps off the page, right? Miles Mikolas against Atlanta in Atlanta. So there's bats to pay up for. So I mean, I definitely agree with you as far as like we're gonna want to pay up for some bats today. We got a windy Wrigley game, like 15 mile an hour is blowing dead out to center. With Kyle Hendricks facing off against like a bullpen Mania game for San Francisco. Like, so yeah, pitching. 12K is a lot to ask for Garrett Cole. Could Garrett Cole pay off this price tag? I mean, yeah, of course he can. It's Detroit. He could go out and strike out a bunch in this game. But on the flip side of that, I think that Bassett against Oakland under 10K. There's some other guys that we could take some shots on under 10K. I like if I had to project a pitcher to score the most fantasy points right now, I would say Garrett Cole.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I'm at, just in general here. So I am not playing any Detroit bats. I know they got to him a little bit. Riley Green going on the IL on Saturday definitely hurts this lineup. He's been one of the hitters that has been solid throughout this lineup, but overall, just no interest for me in Detroit here.
Yeah, I don't have any interest either. I mean, the only thing is if you want to try to find a home run, I would try to do it with somebody cheap. Like I don't love spending up for Torkelson or Carpenter. Against Cole, Parker Meadows is probably the name that jumps out, 3,300, a talented young outfielder. But yeah, I'm definitely not stacking against Cole.
Problem, like you're not even just facing Cole, right? You're facing the best bullpen in baseball. Like the Yankees have the best bullpen in baseball, and I think like as a Yankees fan, like that's the frustrating thing. Like your bullpen's so good, and you're just not having a good year. But yeah, doesn't hurt my feelings. Spoken like a true Red Sox fan.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
let's talk Yankees bats here. Faedo, he's definitely someone you want to, pick on with right-handed power bats. His struggle this year is a 352 WOBA to righties. His xFIP is almost 5 against righties. His WHIP is 1.4. Home run per 9 is 2.8 or 2.08 against righties. Like, this is the type of guy you want right-handed power. Well, guess what? The Yankees have plenty of it. I think you could stack the Yankees today. Like, not only is like Faedo potentially an average to below average type of pitcher, the Detroit bullpen's not good. So, in Yankee Stadium, I definitely have some interest in the Yankees bats today.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Great ballpark for hitting. You've got elite power bats, Judge obviously leading the way. Everybody else is kind of cheap, like Stanton and Torres, 4,500, 4,600, like completely fine with those guys. And then everyone else is under 4K. Volpe, I really like at 3,700. Jason Dominguez is a switch hitter, so he'll hit left-handed against Faedo, but still like him, he's showing off some power. Great young prospect there. Any of the young guys, I'm fine with that. Like I think it's Judge and then Torres would be my second favorite. Stanton has just struggled a little bit, but then fill it out with a couple of kids, and it's a pretty affordable stack.
All right, moving on. We got Mets at Nationals. New York Mets, Washington Nationals, 9 total. Mets a 150 favorite. We got Quintana and Corbin, battle of the old lefties here. Jose Quintana, 7,300 against Washington. Any interest here?
Quintana has actually been like sneaky good, which is weird. I don't love this matchup against Washington. Obviously, a very high contact opponent. They've been much better against lefties as well. He's not my favorite pitcher down in this range, but I don't think you're crazy if you wanted to take a couple of shots on Quintana.
Yeah. I don't think I'll pick on him as far as like stacking against him in this spot. I definitely don't mind some of these right-handed bats, but my problem with Quintana is it's not like he's a huge K guy anyway, typically throughout his career. And I mean, right now he's like slightly below like a strikeout per inning. Washington is a team that's going to put the bat on the ball. They might not have a ton of power, but they're definitely better against lefties for sure. So I don't have a ton of interest in Quintana. I probably won't play him here, and I know for certain I'm not playing Patrick Corbin.
Yeah, not against this Mets team, and it's not in Citi Field either. We're in Washington for this one, so no Corbin for me.
Mets bats. I think Pete Alonso, man, should be at the top of the list today Will he be? It's tough to say. Atlanta's in a great spot. We're going to talk about them in the next game. So Matt Olson, when Atlanta's in a good spot, is definitely going to get some ownership. But dude, I mean, it's hard for me not to have a ton of interest in Pete Alonso going up against Patrick Corbin.
Yeah, this is a great spot for him. Ballpark upgrade, Washington, a better hitter's park than Citi Field. And it's Pete Alonso against a lefty. So sign me up. He's only $5K. I think that's a great price in a great matchup. I like Lindor as well. Alvarez has been reverse splitsy. He's been better against righties than lefties this season. So like the full stack, Corbin has actually been serviceable compared to like the last couple of years. He's turned the season around and he's actually been okay. But I mean, I still have a ton of interest in these Mets bats. Ronnie Mauricio, one of the better prospects in the game, has second base eligibility plus shortstop. So that's really nice in the middle infield. If you're looking for a cheap bat with some upside, he's got some speed as well as power. Who's the other? Vientos. Looks like he's banged up a little bit. Yeah, but big power prospect. He's cheap as well. But yeah, it's Pete Alonso and Lindor, the real targets here.
Yeah, he sat Sunday. They had Monday off. Could potentially be back in the lineup here. He's like 2.5K. I like that. Lindor. I mean, I would start like my 3-man with Lindor and Alonso, and then just play a cheap bat that cracks the lineup. Whether it be like the two prospects that you were just talking about. They got Tim LeCastro at 2K here. He could be potentially in the lineup here as well with all those lefties they have in the outfield. So he probably a little bit of a pinch hit risk, but I mean, this could be a good spot for him to get some at bats. So he's 2K. Washington, dude, Lane Thomas is on fire. This guy is scorching hot right now. 3 games in a row with at least 1 home run. What are your thoughts here on Washington bets?
Yeah, I mean, 5K for Lane Thomas seems like an awful lot, but he's been incredible, and especially against lefties this season. So despite Quintana having some success, I still have interest in, I would say, a mini stack of Nationals here. Carter Kieboom has been really good against lefties in his career. Good for him for making it through a year almost fully healthy. He was once a big-time prospect and dealt with a ton of injuries over the last 2 or 3 years. Riley Adams, if he cracks the lineup, has been good against lefties. Alex Call, if he's in there, is 2,700. So I'd play Lane Thomas and then try to find a couple of these cheap righties who have had some success against lefties.
Yeah, Kaboom, like you mentioned, he was in AAA most of the year. So,
yep.
But yeah, he's someone that he has 3 home runs in like 10 or 11 games that he's played. So good for him. Yeah, definitely don't mind him. All right, St. Louis at Atlanta. No total in this game. It sounds like Soroka is going to pitch for Atlanta, but the reason that there's no total out here, yeah. But the thing with Soroka is he pitched in AAA on Saturday, so I don't know. That was an older report, so I don't know. It's expected to be Soroka. And then Miles Mikolas pitching for St. Louis. Any interest in Miles Mikolas?
Definitely not in Mikolas against this elite Braves offense.
My job's just to ask, Keith. Okay. Soroka. At one time, this guy was a massive prospect. He's pitched a little bit this year in the majors, but he's definitely spent a lot of his time in AAA. He has 87 innings, 92 strikeouts. His swinging strike rate, close to what it was in AAA 2019, like pre-injury. Strikeout stuff, decent at 26% this year. Generates ground balls. Doesn't typically give up a lot of home runs. Do we have interest in Soroka against St. Louis here at 7,100?
I mean, he's cheap. That's one nice thing that we can say about him. Just looking at some of the pitch counts from the minors, he's been up to like 98 pitches a couple of times, 99. They have not pushed him over 100. Recently, they seem like they've pulled back a little bit. 75, 81, and 73 pitches his last 3 starts. So if we're looking at a 75 to 80 type of leash here, it's hard to see a ton of upside. Obviously, he's coming back from injury. He still isn't quite 100% back to what he was. But the price tag, I think you have to take a look here. It's St. Louis, and it's hard to want to pick on St. Louis. They're still a pretty good offense despite a really disappointing season. So like, I don't think I'm going to go here very often, but he's in play if you really needed to save some money and get down here.
Yeah, honestly, like, so everything I read about him, like, was they're limiting in his innings this year. It wasn't even like pitch count; it's like innings. So that worries me. He goes out and he has like 4 or 5 good innings, and he's at like 60 pitches. Are they going to yank him because they're worried about his innings? I mean, yeah, I like the price. He's not my favorite cheap play. We have some options today. Any interest in the St. Louis Bats?
Like, I still think Soroka has talent, and I'm not necessarily running to full stack against him. I don't mind a couple of one-offs here and there. I think Gorman is my favorite. Newt Bar. Tyler O'Neill is cheap with big power. Jordan Walker is maybe starting to come around a little bit here. He's got a couple of home runs in his last couple games. So, yeah, not a full stack for me. I still have respect for Soroka, even though he's not quite back to what he was. I still think there's talent there, but I don't mind trying to find a home run or two against him.
Yeah, home run chasing. Honestly, like, my favorite play would probably be like Edman, because he gives like second base some upside. Like, he has stolen base upside, he has power. He's been getting on base and running a lot still. Like, so Edman would probably be my favorite here from St. Louis. On the Atlanta side, the stack is very much in play today. It's just making them work price wise. Like, Miles Mikolas is a very hittable pitcher. St. Louis is a team that their bullpen just continues to get worse. So, I mean, I think the Atlanta stack top of the board today. But again, like, going back to that conversation about Garrett Cole, just because I think they score the most runs and like points, are they going to be efficient, like, pricing wise? Because I mean, these dudes are expensive. Like, it's so hard to make an Atlanta stack work even outside of cores. Like, you are going to be playing like Harris and Arcia, Darno, like, and just Eddie Rosario type thing. But yeah, I mean, this is a spot where they have a tremendous amount of upside in this spot against Mikolas. It's just making it work.
Yeah, I mean, Mikolas he's not going to miss any bats. So, there's going to be a ton of balls in play. We're in Atlanta. It's still hot there. Ball's been flying all summer long for this offense. It's the pricing. I think you're going to have to do things like play Michael Harris at the bottom of the order. If Travis d'Arnaud ends up cracking the lineup, that helps make the stack a little bit cheaper. But yeah, you definitely have to make some sacrifices. You're not stacking 1 through 5 Braves. It's too expensive. We don't have any like super punt pitchers where there's no 4K guy where we can make this work pretty easily. So you're going to have to make some sacrifices, but the upside is absolutely elite. Mikolas has not been as good as he has been in years past. He's never been a strikeout pitcher. So ball's going to be in play. Should be a lot of hard contact. The Braves are tremendous. It's just a matter of being able to fit them in.
Seems to be the typical like way right now for sure. They're always in play, but where do we find the money? Chicago White Sox at Kansas City Royals, 9.5 total. Pick'em game, Singer and Cease. Straight up 108 both sides here. Dylan Cease, 8,800. This guy he can't decide if he wants to pitch well or not this year. I mean, it's just at that point. What are our thoughts here on Cease at 8,800? Like, beginning of the season, man, we're talking about like, how do we not play him? And like, as the season's gone along here, it's like, how do we play him?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a roller coaster ride. He's always been a guy similar to Blake Snell, where you're getting a ton of strikeouts at least, and you kind of put up with the walks because you're getting the strikeouts. Well, now the walks have gotten even worse, and the strikeouts have come down. So it's a difficult and never a fun roster to play Dylan Cease. But now he gets this great matchup against Kansas City. The price tag is very fair. I mean, when Dylan Cease is on, he's a 30% strikeout pitcher. He's been down around 26%, 26.5% this season, so we haven't quite seen good Dylan Cease near as often as we did last year. But like you said, coming into this year, he was like a favorite to win the American League Cy Young. It's been a really rough season for him and the entire White Sox, really. But Cease is a big reason, plus the offense. But Cease has struggled a ton this year. I'd like this matchup for him. Kansas City is a team that we've been targeting quite a bit here. They strike out plenty. Not a ton of power on the other side. I mean, if you can get around Bobby Witt, there's not a ton else in this lineup. So I'm definitely interested in Cease. It's never a fun roster. Definitely hasn't been this year. But if you're willing to hold your nose a little bit and just hope that he racks up the strikeouts to offset the walks, then he's certainly in play in this matchup.
I think I'm more likely to stack against him today than play him. But when you do get like that Dylan Cease type game, like he easily pays off this price tag. So I can't disagree with you on everything you said. Like, don't watch this game.
Right.
Check in the 7th inning and hope that it's like not 10 runs scored by the Royals. Royals have been kind of rolling here recently. They've had some big games. I know they had a big game on Monday. So, I mean, I don't know. Dylan Cease has just been struggling, man. Like, how do you go negative against Oakland? Like, and I mean that in like the nicest way possible, but like, yeah, I don't know. I struggle here with Cease, but if he's on, he could easily be the best point per dollar pitcher on the slate, but he just really hasn't been that guy. He's building a really cool disc golf course, though, and I can't wait to potentially play it. Brady Singer on the other side of this game, 7,900. Singer has been all over the place as well. Coming off a paternity list, hasn't pitched since August 25th, which kind of worked out, I think, for Kansas City because they were being very careful with him, like innings and pitch count wise. So like him missing a week and a half might actually have helped that. Fine bullpen. He's not expected to have any type of restrictions from what I was reading from the beat writer. And 7,900 against the White Sox, man. I have some interest here in Brady Singer today.
Yeah, I do as well. Like you said, it's kind of been an inconsistent season. Singer's had his struggles, don't get me wrong, but there was a nice, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 stretch there where we were excited to play this guy. It had really seemed like he was figuring some things out. He's always had a long leash. He was regularly going over 100 pitches. The strikeouts were starting to tick up, and it looked like Singer was really turning a corner. And then he had a couple of bad starts in a row. So maybe he was just a little bit worn down, and this rest will kind of do him good, like you said. Absolutely love the matchup here against the White Sox. They've been one of the worst teams in baseball against right-handed pitching. So not a ton of threats, not a ton of resistance from the White Sox. Singer on a couple extra days rest. I like this price tag here at 7,900. He's not a huge strikeout guy. He's been around 20% on the season. I think there's a little more in there than that. Like, I think he can be like a 24-25% strikeout guy. So 7,900, 6 innings and 7 or 8 Ks wouldn't surprise me in this spot.
Yeah, he's at 24% last year. So, I mean, he's definitely someone that can push it. But, I mean, he faced Seattle like 2 out of 3 starts, and they got to him in the second start. And he pitched in Wrigley against a Cubs team that was like, they're hitting everybody right now. So, you know, I mean, anyone that doesn't have kids too, like, you know how that last few weeks of pregnancy is. It's exhausting. So I'm just saying, like, he just got back from the paternity list. Might have just been tired. I mean, yeah, maybe he's gonna be tired now, but he's a Major League Baseball player, so he should be fine. Dude, I mean, I have a ton of interest in Singer. Hopefully he shows up and he is that Major League Baseball player today, because I know I'm going to be playing him probably on 2 of my 3 teams today. I'm very, very interested in Singer. Dude, just no interest in the White Sox. As long as, like, Robert is out of the lineup, and they did say, like, Wednesday or Thursday is what it sounds like for him with the quad. With him out of this lineup, like, the lineup is just even worse than what it typically is. There's a ton of strikeouts. They very seldom walk a lot. Like, it's just not a high upside stack spot for me. I'm just not playing the White Sox today.
Yeah, I mean, you're not excited to click on any of these names. Like you said, Robert's been their best guy by a wide margin. I'd prefer them against lefties, certainly. Benintendi's not a fun guy to roster. I think he might be the best option here. Maybe Eloy at 3,800, but I'm not looking to pick on Singer. I definitely prefer the Singer side of this. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much else to add. Even as a mini value stack, I'm not excited. Like Benintendi, Moncada, Andrew Vaughn, maybe, but there's just not much here.
Yeah, it's hard for me to get excited about playing this team. Maybe Sosa at like 2,200 if he cracks the lineup, just because he's cheap and should hit 5th or 6th here, but it's not like he's great either. So, Kansas City bats. I mean, I have interest. Like the way that Cease has been pitching and like not missing bats this year and his walks, like stacks can easily work out, and they've worked out many times against Cease this year just alone. So, I think that if Cease is off, the stack could easily work. Do I want a full stack? Maybe, maybe not. But I think that this is a team that has some upside in this spot, and they're not expensive. So, like, maybe I look at like a 4-4 Kansas City Atlanta stack on one of my builds today, using some of the value for Kansas City and attacking some of those expensive bats with Atlanta.
Yeah, I like that call. The problem with that is Bobby Witt is 6,300. It's tough to want to play this team without him. Like he's obviously the star of the show here, but it's not a great matchup against Cease, in my opinion. I know he's had his struggles here, but I guess you have the stolen base upside, right? Like if Cease walks Witt twice, you could end up with 2 or 3 stolen bases out of that. So that angle, I'm okay with this. Cease is actually not giving up a ton of home runs this year. He's under 1 home run per 9. So I like your angle on the cheap guys. Massey at 3,200 would be a guy I'm interested in. Melendez at 3,400. Really like that. Lofton, a guy that was just recently called up here. There's a little bit of power in that profile. So don't mind that. They're cheap outside of Witt, and Sal Perez is 4,400. That's perfectly fine with me. Everybody else is really cheap in the 3K and 2K range. So I'm on board with the mini stack here.
Yeah, especially like Cease's like strikeouts to lefties has dipped so much this year too, and he's giving up more fly balls. So like taking shots on Massey, taking shots on like a Drew Waters at 2,900, who finally is starting hitting. Like he's finally starting to put some hits together. That type of guy, like you mentioned, Lofton, like just taking some shots here on these cheap bats, pairing them with that expensive like Atlanta stack. And I agree with you, like. If I'm doing a 4-4 with Kansas City, I'm probably taking like one cheap Atlanta bat to offset, trying to get Bobby Witt in my lineup. So then it gets you off of Arcia too. And I think Arcia will be pretty popular in Atlanta stacks because he is like one of the cheaper Atlanta bats today for what it's worth. All right. San Francisco at Chicago Cubs. No total. Obviously, night before Wrigley. Expected win of, it says like everything I looked up, and I wait for Kevin Roth for this, but everything I looked up night before gives us like 14 to 17 on our wins blowing dead center. Manaea pitching in this like opener role, 3 innings, whatever. We probably get like Jacob Junis opening for Manaea, and Manaea coming in a long relief by the time this game starts. And then Hendricks, any interest in Manaea?
If I knew he was actually going to pitch with 100% certainty, I would have some interest here. He's only 5,300, which he's had some strikeout stuff. The Cubs have crushed lefties this year, so it's not a great spot. The wind's blowing out, but he's 5,300 and he's got strikeout upside. When you add in the risk that he may not even come into the game, I don't think I can make the case to play him. It's not a good enough spot. Like if the wind were blowing in, then yeah, sure, take some shots, and you're okay eating a 0 if he doesn't even come into the game, because it's worth the upside play if he does enter the game and can throw 5 scoreless innings with 6 strikeouts or something like that. It's hard to find a scenario where something like that happens. I don't think it happens often enough with the wind blowing out here where it's worth taking the risk of the 0 if he doesn't come into the game.
I don't think I can do it, but I hear what you're saying, right? Like I hear like if you're going to try to get Atlanta and you need some value, Manaea 4 or 5 clean innings might pay off 5,300, but The Cubs have been great against left-handed pitching, like you mentioned, and Sean Manaea, just his walks, man. You start walking guys in Wrigley with the wind blowing out, one fly ball, like
Can turn
just
into 4-0
absolutely,
real quick.
yeah, real quick. So, yeah, no real interest for me in Manaea. Kyle Hendricks is 8,300. I cannot touch this price for Kyle Hendricks. Nope.
Yeah, there's no strikeout upside. He's actually been a decent real life pitcher this year. Don't love he's got a home run problem anyway. You add the wind blowing out, and that obviously makes it very tough to play him. Shout out to Justin Steele. I was on a strikeout prop Monday. He absolutely shoved career high in strikeouts for him. 12 strikeouts Monday night. So like this San Francisco team strikes out 20, but Kyle Hendricks isn't the guy that we want to target it against.
Hey, Justin Steele's a lefty, right?
He is.
Yeah, Giants continue to be the worst team in baseball against lefties. I'll keep saying it. I'm just saying they have been awful. I don't care what the numbers say. I know they're not. They're probably not last. Looking now.
They're top. They're bottom three for sure. I think. I know this. They're third worst in strikeouts because that's part of the reason why I wrote up Steele.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. You guys should subscribe to Scores and Odds. Keith is on fire. Yeah, a little interested in the Giants bats. Not a ton of interest. Like I'll chase some home runs here, like Jock Peterson, Flores, but I hate playing Flores at first base. Yaz is really cheap at like 3K. Cheap shortstop with like Brandon Crawford, maybe. Like he's a guy that if he gets the ball up in the air has like home run type power. Yeah, just kind of chasing home runs for San Francisco today.
Yeah, I'm a little more interested than you. Like the lefties in particular. Like San Francisco does this pinch hit thing, which will just drive you insane. The Cubs don't have a ton of lefties in their bullpen. Only one, I believe, at this point. They use Mark Leiter a bunch against lefties. He has a nasty splitter, so he is good against left-handed hitters, but they don't have a lefty where they're going to come in and match up Jock Peterson lefty, and Jock's going to get lifted for a pinch hitter. Like I don't see the risk being that high in this game for that type of thing. And it's Kyle Hendricks with the wind blowing out. He's not going to miss any bats, so there should be plenty of contact here. I love Jock Peterson. I really like Lamont Wade. JD Davis, another guy that I really like. We'll see how good the wind looks. But if we're talking about 15 mile an hour plus winds blowing out, I'm certainly interested.
Love the Cubs today. I think that they're a team you could pivot off the Braves. They're, not as expensive, but they're priced up for sure. Sean Manaea, like this is definitely a spot I like. Swanson, Yan Gomes at catcher, I think is interesting. Horner, Bellinger, surprisingly has been really good lefty this year, so I don't think I would leave him out of my Cubs stacks. I know he's expensive, but he's another guy that I think you could play. Hap and then Candelario, the two switch hitters. Like I think the Cubs are in a great spot. And then Sean Manaea's strikeout rate is still really good against righties. I don't think I would go with a ton of Patrick Wisdom today, just because you want to target Wisdom against lower strikeout guys. But he is 3,400 and has power upside. But Yan Gomes, very fair price tag today.
Yeah, I absolutely love the Bellinger call. Lefty. Like what a signing this guy has been. Good for him for getting the career back on track. Dude made himself a ton of money in this offseason. I hope it comes from my Cubs. Like he's kind of put the Cubs in a position where they almost have to re-sign him. Just as good as he's been, as well as it's worked out. He's just a perfect fit for this lineup. He's up over 6K now, but he's earned every bit of that along the way. Manaea isn't going to be out there long, so maybe 2 at bats against Manaea at most, but he's completely raked against lefties anyway. So love Bellinger, love paying up for him. I don't think many people are going to be doing that because they're going to be trying to get Braves in or whatever they're doing. Bellinger's just going to fall by the wayside a little bit. And I kind of like that the rest of these guys are priced up a little bit. I don't think they catch too much ownership here, especially if we don't know exactly who they're facing. But if wind's blowing out, I'm highly interested. I love the Yan Gomes call. He's been incredible this year as well. I would sit out Patrick Wisdom. Sure, he could hit 2 home runs and 2 at bats, but he's a guy that they've been pinch hitting for late. Like if there's even in a RBI situation, they'll bring Madrigal in just because he strikes out so much. Wisdom has been getting pinch hit for quite a bit. whether it's defensive replacement or they just need a little bit more contact in that spot. So I would skip Wisdom as well. Suzuki, I love that price for him at 3,500, especially if we get a couple of bats against the lefties. But yes, Cubs very, very much in play. Even like if it's 5 to 10 mile an hour winds, I'm highly interested. And if it's 15 plus, then they're going to be one of my favorite stacks of the day.
Yeah, and I mean, especially like if Junis does open, like Bellinger might get the right-handed pitcher to open this game. I mean,
Yeah.
Bellinger typically hits fourth, so all you need is like one of these guys to get on base, and there you go. He's potentially only seen Manaea once, maybe twice. So Houston at Texas. Sorry, every time. No total in this game. It does sound like Eovaldi is going to be activated to pitch in this game, and then Valdez is pitching for Houston. So I expect the total to be lower, probably like 8 in this game. Valdez 10-1. Any interest against Texas?
Oh man, like I said, I've been trying to save as much money as I can at pitcher. Like just spending on bats in the summer seems to be the right approach here. So I'm not sure how often I get to Valdez. It's a really tough matchup here against Texas. He's 10-1. He's not an elite strikeout pitcher. Like, sure, he's in play for tournaments. He's one of the best real life pitchers in baseball. He's been in solid form here recently, but he's more of you need some length out of him, and I'm just not sure that this is the spot where he's going to go out there and throw 8 innings against a really good Texas offense. So I'm probably out for the most part. If I'm spending, I'm probably going to try to find a way to get to Cole against the Tigers. But I think in most of my lineups, I'll just be looking to save some money at pitcher.
I think both of these guys, right? Just like really tough matchups for both of these guys. I don't have a ton of interest in the bats. I don't have a ton of interest in the pitching. This is just one of those games where I don't have a ton of interest in this game. I hope it's a really low scoring game. Hope there's like not a ton of fantasy scoring on any side of the ball. It's just really hard for me to be very excited about playing anybody from this game. Like anybody from this game.
Yeah, on Eovaldi, he's coming back from the injured list, and I don't see that he has made a rehab start, so he could even potentially be limited here. I'll have to do a little bit more digging on that, but he hasn't pitched in a major league game since July 18th, and I'm not seeing any rehab starts, so he could be limited here, and there's no chance we'd be paying $10K for him against a fully healthy Astros lineup now. The bats, I'm kind of with you. Like, both of these pitchers are really good real-life pitchers. They're both really good offenses, but they're expensive because of that. And I don't really want to pay up when the matchup is not great. So I'm kind of out. I'm just pretend that this game doesn't exist pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's going to be one of those guys that's definitely going to see a pitch count here. He's had a bullpen session, did not do a minor league rehab. That's an excellent point. I looked it up really quick while you were talking about it, but so just a bullpen session. So this might be one of those spots that you try to find like Eovaldi outs on somewhere. I don't know if like we'll get it on sports books or if we'll get it on like pick'em sites, but this might be one of those ones that we're looking for less than like Eovaldi outs here, because I don't know how deep he'll pitch into this game. I mean, he kind of has like a rubber arm, but I think he's more likely to throw 5 innings than 7 in this spot. I think he's more likely to throw 80 pitches than 100. Yeah, bats, anything on either side. I have just no interest in bats in this game.
No, too much respect for these pitchers. Like they're really good. I don't want to use them in DFS because neither one's a massive strikeout guy. And the matchup is really tough. So no interest in bats, no interest in arms in this one.
Baltimore out of LA taking on the Angels. 9 total in this game. Baltimore a 145 favorite. We got Kramer and Dietmers facing off against each other. Any interest here in Dean Kramer?
I do have some interest in Kramer here. This Angels lineup is just what a disaster for them. It's gonna like the way they handled this Ohtani situation is gonna affect them long term. It's a sad state of affairs. They've let a couple people go on waivers now as well, so it's a depleted lineup. They're going to start taking looks at young hitters, which raises the strikeout potential. Like this lineup they rolled out on Monday night there's a ton of strikeouts in this lineup.
Yeah.
And Dean Kramer's actually been pretty solid this season. Not a huge strikeout guy, but he can give you some length. He's probably going to give you over 90 pitches. You're looking at 6-7 innings if things are going really well, and if he can get you 5 or 6 strikeouts in that. 8,600 is a little bit pricey, but I think there's upside here in this matchup with the Angels.
I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but I think
Yeah.
if he was cheaper, he'd be
truck.
likely to be higher owned. So if Otani's out of the lineup again, I know he got scratched on Monday. So if he's out of the lineup again, just a huge upgrade to Kramer, in my opinion. So overall, interested for sure. Way more interested if we get no Otani today. A lot of young hitters, like you said, a lot more strikeout upside, and some of the young hitters they called up too are like right-handed. So I don't know how lefty they'll get here against Kramer. Reed Detmers on the other side, I can't do it. Baltimore has been phenomenal. The organization has turned around so much over the last few years, but no real interest for me in this spot. I definitely prefer left-handed pitching more against Baltimore, but this is still a team that is top 10 in WRC plus against left-handed pitching this year.
Yeah, it's too tough of a matchup for me to want to target Detmers. Like you said, Baltimore has been really good this season. I can't do it either.
His strikeouts have dipped so much and his walks have gone up so much recently that I think we have to look at Baltimore today. I think this is a stack that we have to be looking at today.
Yeah, like Detmers, it looked like he was really turning a corner this season. I don't know if he's hit a wall just with the innings pitched and it's fatigue and things like that, but just hasn't quite been like we were excited to play him a couple of months ago. Hasn't been the case here lately. Not great form, and Baltimore has been outstanding. Even Gunnar Henderson, you play him lefty, but the real targets here, like Ryan Mountcastle, has matched left-handed pitching his whole career. Love him at 4,600. Santander and Hayes have both been really good against lefties as well. Mullins is fine lefty. Rutschman, as a spend-up catcher, is, of course, in play as well. Westberg, a guy that I like to play against lefties. He has second base eligibility, which helps. If Mateo's in there, certainly don't mind him. Guy with a bunch of speed. But yeah, I like this Baltimore stack here quite a bit, especially with those mid-range trio of righties, Mountcastle, Santander, Hayes.
Aaron Hicks too came back Monday from the IL and hit 6 against the lefty. Aaron Hicks has been phenomenal from the right side of the plate throughout his career and is 2,500. So probably a pinch hit risk. Let's be honest. I would not be shocked if he gets pinch hit for, but I will say he got 4 at bats on Monday. So there you go. Angels, man. Yeah. I'm not even doing it on purpose. It's just you look at this lineup and you're like, how does it make any sense to play any of these guys? Kramer, when he struggles, it's typically more against left-handed hitters. 360 WOBA against lefties this year has been way better against lefties recently, but it's more of matchups than anything else. Mickey Moniak, why is this guy hitting 7th? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Would you want to get Moustakas up there in the 3-hole or whatever? I'm with you.
Why is Regnifo hitting 3rd? Let's be honest.
He has been hot here recently, to give him a little bit of credit. But yeah, I don't think he's some special hitter. I agree. I'd rather see Moniak up there. Otani's obviously the guy you want to play, but why wouldn't they just walk him 3 times or 4 times? There's just no reason to want to pitch to this guy. The rest of the lineup is completely uninspiring.
And even Otani has been struggling. I just feel like the Angels, the mojo is gone right now. So
yeah.
All right, we got Toronto at Oakland. We kind of talked about this yesterday because at the time we recorded, Waldichuk was the pitcher announced, but Bassett and Waldichuk 8.5 total. Blue Jays a 205 favorite here. Bassett, I think he's the guy that if I'm spending some money on a pitcher, I'm going to Chris Bassett today.
Yeah, it's the matchup against Oakland. It's the massive ballpark upgrade. Oakland, one of the best pitchers parks in baseball. Bassett has been up and down this year. Revenge game for him. He came up with Oakland, spent quite a few years there before he was eventually traded. as everybody is traded from Oakland. 9,700, a little bit too expensive, but it's the matchup, right? That's what we're chasing here. Oakland strikes out a ton. They don't offer a ton of power, and it's a fantastic ballpark to pitch in. So 9,700 feels a little pricey for Bassett, but the matchup makes up for it.
Big leash. I mean, he has a great leash. So, yeah, I mean, he's comfortable in this ballpark. Like you said, he pitched here many, many times. Waldichuk. I've already given my thoughts on Waldichuk. I'll let you give your thoughts here.
So, like, if we're trying to fit Braves, I can see the case for it just because of the ballpark. That said, Toronto's one of the best stacks on the slate. Like 5,800 is the only reason we're even considering talking about this. Waldichuk has had his struggles. He is protected a little bit by this ballpark, but I don't see the upside here against Toronto. Toronto has struggled from a power perspective against lefties, so maybe you get lucky with BABIP and the ballpark being massive. Maybe he can squeak out 5 semi-clean innings. Maybe he gets up a run or two and gets you 4 or 5 strikeouts. Up limited upside, but the price is something to consider. It's not anything to be excited about, though.
Biggest difference from yesterday to today was we didn't have Braves yesterday, and when we're trying to find someone under 6K, Waldichuk has some strikeout ability. Like, no one's going to argue that. Like, this is a guy that can strike right-handed and left-handed hitters out. So I think I don't have a ton of interest in Waldichuk, but I think, like, if you're trying to make your Atlanta stack different, maybe you look at Waldichuk and just hope, like you said, maybe BABIP, like being in this ballpark, can he keep the ball in the ballpark a little bit more? He's done a better job at home this year. Shocking. But yeah, I mean, I think he's potentially in play. You don't love the matchup. I mean, you do love the fact that, like, Chapman's not in the lineup right now. Bichette's not in the lineup right now. Jansen's not in the lineup right now. So, like, that aspect helps for sure. Just not a ton of power in this lineup against left-handed pitching this year. So maybe we should like Waldichuk more. Like, there's just no strikeouts either. They put the ball in the bat on the ball a ton. I don't know. He's cheap. He's throwing 90 plus pitches when he's pitching okay. I wouldn't tell you not to play him. And I kind of disagree with Toronto being like a top stack. Like, the more I look at these numbers, the more, like, they might beat him with, like, singles and doubles, but I don't know if they're going to hit a ton of home runs off him in this spot.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about because I wrote up Toronto in top stacks on Monday, thinking it was going to be Waldichuk they were facing. And as I'm doing it, it's like, man, these ISOs are not great here. I believe it's like Davis Schneider has been incredible since he's been called up. But if you take him out of the lineup, Whit Merrifield is the guy that leads the Toronto Blue Jays in ISO against lefties. With Bichette and Chapman and Jansen on the IL, those 3 guys have been their best hitters against lefties. But with those guys out, it's been Whit Merrifield as their top power hitter. When we're talking about Whit Merrifield and power in the same sentence, that's not good. Like, Springer struggled, Vlad has struggled. It's wild how much these big Toronto bats have struggled against lefties this year. But I do think that's why Waldichuk is in play. That said, like, George Springer has crushed lefties his entire career. I just can't imagine this is going to continue. I like him to get back on track. I mentioned David Schneider. He's been just destroying lefties since his call up. He has second base eligibility. Love that. Merrifield has some speed upside to go with that team leading ISO of his. Also second base eligible. It's not a great ballpark. Like, we know home runs are going to be tough to come by, but it's Oakland. Waldichuk is nothing to be terrified of, and we know that we can target the bullpen as well. So, like, Toronto's in play, but the ballpark is a ding to them for sure. And just what they've been doing against lefties, this group from a power perspective is not all that enticing.
Yeah, I mean, Springer dealt with some injuries last year. I was looking at his numbers the other day. He has 25 home runs. He had 25 home runs last year in 133 games. Monday was 130, and he's at 17. His power has dipped a ton. His ISO is at like career low at 145. His OPS is at a career low. So, I mean, he really hasn't had like the power this year. And like what's weird too, when I was looking at like digging into Springer's numbers, like his hard hit rate is actually not bad. So just weird. Oakland bats, any interest in Oakland against Bassett?
Lefties. I think that's what you're looking at here. Bassett has massive splits. And there's some cheap lefties. So I think you can certainly look to guys like Ryan Noda, Seth Brown, Lawrence Butler is a guy who's almost minimum price, big time power. That's really all I'm looking at. Probably just trying to find a home run here with a lefty.
Exactly my thoughts. I could see using them as like a 3-man mini stack for like if I'm not playing Bassett and I'm not trying to like go super cheap at pitcher when I'm stacking like one of these high end teams like Cubs or Braves. I could see like using Brown and Noda and Kemp and just attacking some of these cheap lefties. Butler, like you mentioned. So yeah, I agree. All right, Colorado at Arizona. Freeland and Fayette facing off against each other in this one. 9 total. Diamondbacks a 200 favorite. Let's talk Freeland first. Any interest in him in this spot?
No interest in Freeland. He's really cheap, but Arizona just doesn't strike out. I guess he's in the Waldichuk range, so I guess we probably need to make that comparison. I just like, what world does Kyle Freeland put up a DFS like usable score? 15 would like you'd be thrilled with 15 points, but I'm just looking through the game logs here. He doesn't hit 15 points very often. This Arizona lineup doesn't strike out, lots of contact. So I think if I'm throwing darts at the bottom of the salary range here, I'd go Waldichuk over Freeland.
I agree. I'd go Waldichuk over Freeland too, and I'm not a huge Waldichuk guy, but I agree 100% with that. I think I'd play Manaea before I'd play Freeland. Like I would attack the strikeouts from Manaea. Like Freeland's just not a strikeout guy. Merrill Kelly absolutely dominated the Rockies on Monday night, or Monday. I think he had like 11 or 12 strikeouts. He had a baller game. I love Fayette today. He's probably my favorite point per dollar pitcher on the slate. I think he's an extremely talented pitcher. Talked about him a bunch in that Cincinnati start week and a half ago. Faced the Dodgers last time out. I mean, it's really hard to play anybody, especially righty against the Dodgers. Like, I love this spot for Fayette today.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. 6,900 is a great price tag. A matchup against Colorado outside of Coors Field. That's something that we love. They strike out a ton. I mean, obviously the ballpark downgrade is a huge factor. Like Colorado just stinks. That's kind of what it is. And Fott is really starting to put some things together here. Couple of really strong starts in a row. And then he got the Dodgers. We can't fault anybody for struggling against the Dodgers. So looked really good against Cincinnati, looked really good against San Diego, even facing them in back-to-back starts. So feel like Fott is really starting to find something here late in his rookie season. You mentioned that, like, the pedigree is there. This is a fantastic pitching prospect. He's 6,900 in one of the best matchups we can ask for. Absolutely all about it.
I mean, you could pair him with like Singer and, probably get like 3 or 4 expensive Braves. Probably like what my main bill would be today. I know it's early, so I don't want to like commit, but I'm saying definitely what I was looking at like pre-show. So Colorado, 28% strikeout rate over the last 30 days, highest in baseball. They're just this lineup. You look at it. I was looking on Plate IQ, and it made me go look it up really quick because I mean, McMahon's at 29 on the season, Jones at 33, Rogers at 31, Montiero 37, Goodman 39, and Doyle 34%. I mean, just honestly, it's just they're striking out at such a massive clip right now that like this guy is just too cheap for this matchup. And we're gonna say that a lot here in the last month of baseball season. We're gonna talk about pitchers just being too cheap against Colorado every start, it feels like. So Rockies bats, I got nothing, man. This team is just not a team I'm likely going to be playing a lot of hitters from. If you like last piece in Nolan Jones, he'd be like the only guy that I think you could play from Colorado.
Yeah, I don't mind the Nolan Jones call. But yeah, like there's just not a ton of upside. McMahon is okay too, I guess, if you want to throw like a little 2-man together, but nobody's excited to play Charlie Blackmon outside of Coors Field. Hunter Goodman doesn't have catcher eligibility anymore, and his price has come up. So, yeah, I mean, it's really only Jones, and I'll throw McMahon out there too as a guy I wouldn't mind rostering, but certainly not someone I'm seeking out, and I'm not stacking at all.
Man, if you plug in like Olsen, Riley, Acuna, it's so hard. It's just, I mean, no joke. Those three guys together make it so impossible to stack Atlanta. All right, Arizona bats. Freeland's a great matchup. I think that this is a spot. It's good to see Christian Walker was back in the lineup on Monday with the elbow. I mean, I definitely don't mind targeting some of these right-handed bats for Arizona.
Yeah, Christian Walker is the one that jumps off the page. We always love him against lefties. Freeland just doesn't have the strikeout stuff to be able to get it by him. So love Walker for a home run in the spot. Marte is another guy who has just smashed lefties. Tommy Pham is cheap. Love that. He should be hitting in the middle of this order. Gurriel's actually been better against righties, but I don't mind him against the lefties. He's plenty cheap. 3,800 is a fair price for Gurriel, even though he's been a little better against righties. And then from there, I mean, like I'm not excited to play Carroll at 5,800 against the lefty, but everyone's going to feel that way. So if you want to differentiate an Arizona stack to play some chalk pitching or something like that, I don't mind Carroll. But Walker and Marte, the two favorites by a good margin, and then love saving some money with Pham.
Yeah, I don't really have a ton to add. I don't think they'll be that popular today. Longoria is really cheap too. If you need a third baseman that has a little bit of pop against left-handed pitching, like Longoria is 2,900. Montiero is 2,800. Or he's on the other side. Just kidding. Marino.
Yeah.
I clicked Marino and I said Montiero. 2.7K catcher could be a good pivot off of Yan Gomes. I think Yan Gomes would get a pretty good amount of ownership today. So don't hate that. Philadelphia at San Diego is where we finish up. 8.5 total. The Phillies a 120 favorites. We have Lorenzen against Avila. Any interest here in Michael Lorenzen?
He's 9K. I don't love that. I would have some interest if he was a little bit cheaper. He gets San Diego, who has been hit or miss whether they're a tough matchup or not. They tend to disappear a lot. I think gutless is the term that some people like to use. Like, I'm just not excited to pay 9K for Michael Lorenzen, even if the Padres do struggle at times. I think you would need him to go out and have one of those 8-9 inning starts, which he's done a couple of times in the second half of the season here. But he's not an elite strikeout guy. It's a tougher matchup against San Diego, and he's priced up to 9K. So I'm not terribly excited about it.
Yeah. You look at this team, man, and they're 65 and 74. What is going on?
I mean,
just doesn't make any sense. You look at how good this lineup is, and it just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, yeah, I mean, overall, I wish they would have enticed us with Lorenzen at like 7K today.
Yeah, I would be interested there. I mean, if it's the price, and it's strictly a price thing for me. I think he can have success in this matchup. I'm worried about upside paying off a 9K price tag.
Yeah, me too. I will say, like, if you're building 150, I would have some Lorenzen exposure in a 150 build. Avila on the other side of this game. Any interest in him here at 6,300?
Another guy who's really cheap. I think it's similar to the Waldichuk play. You're not excited about it. He's probably going to give up multiple runs against a tough Philly team. It is a big ballpark downgrade for Philly going out to San Diego. I mean, it's nothing but a price play. Like, if you have the extra money to get up from Waldichuk, I don't even know if I would do it then. Like, I think I'd rather take shots on Waldichuk. Like, he's not going to go deep into the game. He's been right around that 78, 77 pitches his last two times out. So you're looking at 80, 85 at most. And I don't even think he's a guy they're necessarily trying to stretch out. Like, they're just like, give me 2 times through the order and we're good. Like, thanks for your service. Have a seat on the bench. So it's the upside is very limited here for Avila. Philly's a great offense, tough matchup.
His home run to fly ball ratio like jumps off the page to me. Like, this is a guy that was giving up 2 home runs per 9 last year. in AAA and Major League Baseball. Like, just his numbers they just don't add up for me. When I was looking at his home run per nine, like, he is more of a ground ball guy, but man, this is a guy like just waiting to give up a bunch of home runs. I'm just saying, I'm being honest. I think he's just waiting to give up a bunch of home runs. I don't have a ton of interest at 6,300. I think you could do worse. He does have some strikeout ability, but the pitch count worries me. Like you said, he's a 2 through and out kind of guy. Yeah, I mean, the Philadelphia bats, Schwarber and Harper, Turner, like, those guys are phenomenal in any matchup. Stott has been fantastic this season. Like, he's been one of the biggest, like, surprises this year. I think he has like 13, 14 home runs, something like that. He's just been super solid. I think Philly is an interesting, like, low owned stack today. I don't think they're like a full end stack. I think you try to get like maybe one or two of the expensive guys and then try to find some value, and make maybe like a 4-4 type of build. They did sign Jake Cave, right? Didn't that happen? Or he came back from injury or something? Like, he's on this roster and he has power against right-handed pitching as well.
Yep. That is accurate. I like that call. So you mentioned Avila's ground balls, and that's how he's been trying to have success here and limit the home runs. But Schwarber and Harper are two of the best fly ball hitters in baseball. So I like this spot
too, right? Isn't Cave like a big fly ball
extreme
guy too?
fly ball? I think you're correct there. Yep. So I like that call. He was really cheap too, wasn't he? Yeah, 2,500.
Really
love that call of Cave. Marsh, I think, is a little bit too ground ball heavy to want to target him. And I'd have to check on Stott. But Schwarber and Harper, I love the spot for them. I don't know if I want a full stack here just because of the pricing, and I'm a little concerned about the upside with the ballpark. But I love chasing home runs with the guys that we've already talked about. Harper, Schwarber, Cave. Wouldn't call you crazy for chasing a Stott or a Marsh either.
Stott is a ground ball guy.
Yeah,
for what it's worth. So
tough spot for him.
Yeah, I don't think I'd take shots on him, but Harper's been hitting the ball on the ground a lot more this year too, which is kind of weird for him. But we know notoriously throughout his career he's been a fly ball guy. And Jake Cave is a huge fly ball guy, by the way. Yeah. So San Diego bats against Lorenzen. I mean, the talent is there. I just, when I'm ranking like top end stacks at like these prices, like San Diego doesn't make the top 3 for me today, kind of thing.
Yeah, not for me either. I don't like, it's just been like Lorenzen I have respect for. I think he's an above average pitcher, not a great pitcher, but an above average pitcher. And it's just been a real struggle here for San Diego. I'm never excited to play guys like Bogarts and Soto. Like, Soto just walks too much. I do like this spot for Soto, but 5,600 for a guy who might get walked twice is tough. Kim I prefer against lefties. His price is up. He's had a fantastic year, but I prefer him against lefties. When we're talking Tatis and Machado, we're getting pretty close to Braves pricing here. Gary Sanchez is a cheaper catcher, mid-range catcher. If you want to try to find a home run there, that's about it. I don't think it's a stack for me against Lorenzen, and just because of the pricing.
All right, let's play the morning grind game, and then we will get out of here. Under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts. Who do you got today?
Give me Brady Singer. Just love this matchup against the White Sox. Had a little bit of time off. Hopefully he comes back and has a full workload here and gets back to that form where it started to look like he was putting some things together earlier this summer.
I'm going to go with Brandon Fiat. I think that this is one of the best matchups on the slate. Over 8K to score under 15. Who's your bust today?
Give me. I will go. I feel like Hendricks is cheating. I'm going to go Michael Lorenzen. I think this San Diego offense can get to him a little bit. Just a little bit too expensive. He probably gets right around that 15 mark, but I don't think he's a guy that goes out there and gets you 25 today. And it's going to be tough for him to find his way into my pool.
So I wrote down 2 guys, and you didn't say either one of them. So I'm going to give them both out because usually you pick one. But Nathan Eovaldi and Dylan Cease were the 2 that I wrote down today.
Yeah, Eovaldi with the pitch count is a great call. That he was the obvious one for sure.
Over 4K to hit a home run. Who's going yard today?
Give me Ryan Mountcastle against Detmers. Like anytime this guy's facing a lefty, I'm super interested. 4,600 is a great price tag here.
Give me the guy that just is scorching. Give me Ronald Acuna Jr. I know it's cheating. I don't care. I want like he's the top play on the slate for me. It's just such a great spot that I want to make it happen. I will say like Pete Alonso is in a phenomenal home run spot today. Don't forget about Pete Alonso today. It's all
That's
I'm
what I
gonna
thought
keep,
you were going with.
like hammering it in people's heads, but Acuna, yeah, like Alonso is $1,400 cheaper than Matt Olson today. I just wanted to point that out. Just wanted to point that out. Under 4K to get 2 hits. Who's getting 2 hits today?
Give me Carter Kieboom. He's been awesome against lefties, even going back to his minors season this year. And he's finally healthy. A very talented prospect once upon a time. Dealt with injuries. Matchup against Quintana, not terrified of that. Carter Kieboom at 3,600.
I'm going to go Michael Massey from Kansas City going up against Dylan Cease, like the lefties against Cease. They might not be the prettiest 2 hits, but he has been like getting some extra base hits recently. And I like this spot for him today. I like the Royals. Stack to score 6 or more runs. Who's getting the job done?
Give me my Cubs. Even if there's not a ton of wind and it's only a gentle 10 mile an hour, I'm still highly interested in this spot for the Cubs. Hopefully the pitching situation and the lack of clarity there keeps them lower owned than they probably should be for this spot. They're priced up, so that's another thing that could help keep the ownership down a little bit. But I like this spot for the Cubs a ton.
Oh yeah, gotta love it, right? That's how I feel with the Cubbies right now. I'm gonna go Mets against Corbin. Always seems like a good bet. Like I love Lindor and Alonso today. I think they're 2 of the best hitters on the slate. So give me Mets. Keith, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, find a way to get in some Braves. I guess I do have some final thoughts. Find a way to get in some Braves. Might have to make some sacrifices at pitching. Find some cheap bats, but fun little slate here. Next time I'm with you, we'll be talking some NFL football.
I am about to go start looking at week 1. I've done a ton of best balls. I've done a ton of research for the season in general, but now time to like specifically start looking at week 1. So I always do this. I do this every year. On my initial research, I like build a team out and I throw it in. I think the millie that both sites have like a $5 millie. I throw it in there. And like I'd never touch the lineup throughout the week. And it's like my initial thoughts. And one year we were flying back from Vegas and Calvin Johnson caught 2 or 3 touchdowns. And I was so close to taking down the millie. I finished like second in the $25 queue. And I think I finished like 7th it wasn't even a millie back then, but it was like the big tournament. And it was that team. So initial thoughts, man. Remember that. That's my words of
winner
wisdom
this year.
But that's my words of wisdom. My words of wisdom are like your initial thoughts, like after all the research you've done in the off season, probably a good one. Like you're going to hear so much stuff throughout the week, like your initial thoughts. We're going to get out of here. Hope everyone has a fantastic Tuesday. We'll be back on Wednesday talking baseball. Have a good one. We'll see you then.